Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Monday, January 31st, 2022, and today I'll be sharing true ghost stories from the web. As always, you can find all the episodes and links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me with either comments or questions or topic suggestions or your own stories of paranormal experiences that you've had or others have had that you know. All that can be done and found at the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. And we'll go from there. So, I will be reading these stories I found. And I just actually read the one that I'm going to start on a moment ago because the software I was using malfunctioned, and so I'm technically starting this episode over again. So, anyway, thank you all for being here and listening, whether it's to the live stream or to the podcast feed or to the YouTube video. I appreciate all of your support. So, I'll get to these stories here and start reading. So this one says, last night I woke up during the middle of the night after an unusual dream, unrelated dream, sorry. So when I woke up, in front of my bed was standing a short person. I think it was a woman. I could see her just as clearly as any other visible piece of furniture in the dark room. The silhouette was briefly transparent. I could see through it, but for my eyes and brain, it was definitely there. Staring at me with a neutral expression, it started moving towards me, cornered my bed, keeping deep eye contact. She got closer and closer, maybe a few centimeters away from me before vanishing. I don't believe in ghosts. I was 100% sure it was a hallucination, so I didn't freak out. But really, I saw it. I looked at it. And now, I'm wondering, how could it seem so real if it was just my imagination? I sometimes experience pareidolia when I'm not fully awake after a nightmare, and I recognize human shapes in random objects or shadows. But this was different. The dream wasn't a nightmare, and the human silhouette was quite detailed, shaded, and dynamic. The overall feeling that I got is as if the dream I had ended unexpectedly. I woke up earlier than I was supposed to, and in front of me was standing something that may have been watching me during my dream. And that brings up some interesting ideas. One, that the most obvious thing is the idea that the writer thinks that this figure may have had something to do with their dreams, which does pop up here and there in stories of the paranormal. But it's not something I don't think it's anything that we've covered really on this show as of yet. But there is an idea that spirits or other entities, other beings that are not physical, can somehow communicate with us in our minds, and which would include possibly our dreams. So, and I think in some cases, the another form of that we kind of people don't always think of it in that way, but it's similar, is the way people have visitations from loved ones after they passed. Except in this case, it may just be someone that the writer didn't know, which is definitely strange. And but yeah, and I wonder it's good that they didn't have to freak out. Um, Although I do feel like a lot of this is real. Sometimes it's amazing to me how people can write things off because they don't believe in them. Um, but but it sounds like this person, this writer, may be believing in this a little bit more now after that experience. So let's see here. So I think I'll go on to the next story. And start that one. And then that's about it. Okay, so I'm just checking to make sure everything's working, and it seems to be, so that's good. So this one says, for the first month, I didn't really realize anything out of the ordinary, except a feeling that I was being watched. I didn't really think much about it because I was in my military uniform cleaning rooms of people who got released or passed away. This one time I felt that there was something more than just people watching me. When I was in a room, just me, and I just had this weird dread of being watched by something. While I was cleaning the room, it felt like there was someone there just in a corner, but I couldn't see them. Toward the end, right when I was about to leave, I felt extremely cold. Not like a weird chill, but like a type of death chill, almost. It was such a weird feeling, and something I never felt before. After I left, I felt so scared until I relaxed. I don't understand what could have caused it, or how I got so cold in a matter of seconds. This other story happened in the ER when I was by myself again. So in the hospital, all the soap and hand sanitizers are all motion activated. It started out as a slow night, about 2 rooms an hour. I guess they mean cleaning them. After about 8 hours, I was nearing the end of my shift. I had one more room to clean. As I was cleaning, I started to have the feeling I was being watched. So I just ignored the feeling. Probably not the best idea, as you'll see. After about 5 minutes of feeling that I was being watched, I started cleaning the bed, which was the last thing I had to do. As I was cleaning, the soap dispenser went off, even though I was the only person there. I ignored it as I was going to clean it before I left. Not even 30 seconds later, I heard footsteps in the bathroom. I decided to look to see if anyone was in there. As soon as I poked my head in, I got so cold and got instant goosebumps. So I left the room and I started cleaning a public bathroom for the last 30 minutes of my shift. As I was cleaning the bathroom, the towel dispenser just kept spitting out paper towels after paper towels. After that, I was done with my shift and I left. I don't know what could cause those things to happen or how they do it, but definitely one of the weirdest or scariest moments I've experienced. And yeah, the whole idea of medical facilities having activity in them, that's a common one. So that's an interesting experience. It sounds like they, in the first story, maybe they experienced a really cold spot somehow. But another one, I mean, that's physical objects. I don't know if they're motion-activated devices. I don't know how that works. It seems like if it was just something passing in front of the sensor that that was like falling through the air, like if it was I don't even know, a string or maybe a bug, if that would cause it to go off. I don't know, but for them to go off, especially for the paper towel dispenser to go off repeatedly like that, that seems a little bit hard to just explain away. The soap dispenser, if it was just once, maybe it was just something random that came in front of the camera. Or it could have been paranormal. Hard to say. But interesting stories. I'm always interested in the stories about medical facilities because they just keep popping up, and so I always share them when I find them. So, but I'll go on to the next story here. Let me see here. This one says, this happened as a teenager, only once. I was maybe 13 or 14. This was before I started drinking or smoking. I was in my room, sleeping. My bed was situated so that it was against one wall, and my feet were pointing towards my door. One night, I woke up. It must have been later because my mother was mother was also not up. Asleep in her room, I would guess. Anyway, I woke up and something just wasn't normal. I could feel it. Not bad or evil, also not good, just different. It's dark. We don't sleep with any lights on or night lights in the house. But lights from my digital clock and stereo were enough so that I could make out furniture and stuff like that. So I am laying there, and I scan my room, and over the door, and my door is open. That's the first thing that I notice. The darkness in the hallway is a bit darker than my room, because no ambient light out there was on when I noticed the second thing. There was someone, a man I think, standing in my doorway. It had like a rain jacket with the hood up, either wearing a hat or it's a hoodie, but big and bulky. Maybe a trench coat. All I can see is a very faint outline of this thing. Also a cane or a staff, not sure which. And then I noticed the eyes, or rather, eye sockets. There was a very faint glow in the eye area. I can't make out a face, it's just black. But where the eyes should be, there is a glow, but not like bright glowing eyes. It's hard to explain. So I'm frozen now, trying not to make a sound, even with my breath. Then I noticed something moving on the shoulders and arms of this thing. And I can clearly see its small animals, silhouettes of small animals, crawling up and down its arms and across the shoulders. My mind says rat to me, but I don't remember actually seeing a rat. So I never got up. I was laying down and moved my head to scan the room. So I'm lying there holding my breath, about to freak out and scream, and I blink and don't see it anymore. It's not there. I can distinctly see the outline of my mother's door jamb across the hall now. Didn't see that before. I look around my room, nothing. I finally let out my breath. I laid there for maybe 20 minutes, frozen, heart beating so hard before I got up the nerve to get out of bed. I walked out to the hall and listened, but nothing. I looked down the hall, and I could see the dining room and living room beyond, because by now my night vision was in full effect, and there was ambient light out there from electronics. I look into my mom's room. Same thing. Light from the clocks lighting up the room, and she's asleep in bed. I can hear her breathing. So I closed my door, got my big camping knife, and laid in bed for a while. Nothing happened, and at some point I fell back asleep. Anyway, I don't recall any legs. It felt like I was looking at someone in a trench coat with a hoodie or big droopy hat. The crawling motion of the rats freaked me out a lot. That was like 35 years ago, and I've never forgotten any details. I don't remember what time it was, as I don't recall looking at the clock. And that's quite the sighting. I have no idea how to explain that. I've heard of figures, almost like shadow figures, but never figures with things moving on them. So I really don't know about that one. That one is unique in that way. At least to me, anyway. So yeah, that's a. I don't blame the writer, for being startled by that. It just makes you wonder, and of course, there's no way to get any answers. Who it was, or what it was, and why it was there. So yeah, I can't think if I've ever heard of stories of these shadow figure kind of things having canes or not. I don't feel like I have heard of that a lot. So, but yeah, very interesting story. So, I'll go on to the next one here. This one says, let me preface this with the fact that I've had a lifelong interest in the paranormal, but not much of an interest in death visitations until this past summer. My grandma died midsummer this year, just a few weeks after I drove up to see her one last time. A few weeks later, I had a dream that I was at a pool with my 4-year-old and newborn. My grandma came up to me and said that she just wanted to see, she said that I just wanted to see you one more time and say I love you. It was the most surreal dream I've ever had. It felt different, and I still remember it, which is unusual. I know it's short and unimpressive compared to a lot of what's posted here, but I thought some of you might appreciate it. And that's an interesting one. The idea of people having dreams of being in places they don't recognize and then having a loved one who had passed come up to them. Sometimes I never heard of a pool, but I've heard of waiting rooms. I've heard of even like parks. People having dreams of being in a park with benches and tables and seeing a few people, random people just around, and then one of their loved ones comes up and talks to them for a little bit. This seems like a variation of that. Possibly. So, but yeah, that's very interesting. I like that there was a positive message and everything, and I do know what they mean when they say it felt different, because my experiences with dreams, both visitations from loved ones that had passed and also just other paranormal dreams, they do feel different. So, and I've talked about most of those experiences in previous episodes, so I won't go into that right now. But yeah, very interesting. So let's see here. Okay, I'll go into at least 2 more here today, and we'll see what happens after that. So this one says, My entire family had left to go a few apartments down to visit my uncle. All of the apartments were 2 stories and in sets of 4. Ours was in the middle of the building of these 4, so there was one apartment on each side of ours. One of them was empty. My mom locked the doors when she left us alone. She always did. We lived in an unsafe area, and even if she was just 2 minutes away, she was still cautious. I was sitting upstairs in my shared room, watching a video on my cell phone. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed my little sister's doll had moved. At that exact moment, I heard somebody running up the stairs. And I mean running for their life, like they were being chased by something, and my home was the safest place they could get to. Of course, I froze for a second, because my immediate thought was, somebody just broke in. Again, I was a 14-year-old girl, home alone at night in the worst area of the city. I was scared. However, since we lived a 5-minute walk from some stores, I owned a pocket knife. I'd go shopping for my mom when she had to work, and she taught me how to defend myself. I pulled the knife out and walked through every room, turning on every light as I went because I wasn't really smart. I looked everywhere I could, including the bathtub, but I found nobody. I searched everywhere upstairs because I knew I actually heard what I heard, and it couldn't have been next door. The specific creaks our stairs made were impossible to mistake for something else. I moved downstairs and began to look. I swear, the second I stepped off of that last stair, I heard walking. The ceiling was creaking as if somebody was up there. I went to check the doors, and all of them were still locked. My family came home around 5 minutes later, and I almost broke down, telling them what happened. After I finished, my mom's boyfriend looked at her and said, "I told you." Nobody was found in there. I don't know if I hallucinated or what, but it's one of the weirdest ghost stories I have because there's nothing I can think of that would explain it. And of course, the first thing that I think of after reading that story is, why did the boyfriend say "I told you"? To me, that indicates possibly some experiences that others there may have had. Maybe that he had there. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know the situation, as in who was living there first or what the... Basically, just the details, obviously, because it's just one story on a website. So, but that's really interesting to me because it makes me wonder what the boyfriend had either experienced or heard about from others, possibly. So, but yeah, it's sounds like something intelligent anyway going on, but that's just a guess, of course. So, let's see here. Okay, I'll go on to the next one here. Once I find... Okay, there it is. It says, "I just woke up from a very vivid dream I am still trying to make sense of. In the dream, I was in the living room chatting with a woman casually when my sister walks in with a mature yet spry tabby cat. The cat immediately jumps on me, clinging to me. I was scared at first because I'm allergic to cats and will break out all over with hives and or eczema. and I'm currently going through a bad flare of that. The cat clings to one arm, clings one arm around my neck, excuse me, and one over my shoulder, both legs under my left arm, and starts literally nursing, licking my face. So it's a cat. I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was about to be clawed and bitten up. The random woman is looking at us strangely, and my sister looks at her and casually says, "That's our childhood cat. He wanted to say hi. He died a long time ago." I realized it was my cat, and I embraced him back. I didn't know who he was at first, because his face resembled more of a lion, which is how I viewed him as a child. I could vividly feel his claws slightly dig into my sweater, and the slobbery trails of him on my face. So it says, "I felt his fur and bones when I hugged his body back, and the weight and the energy of his little body. Then I just woke up sobbing at exactly 3 a.m. 3 is my favorite number. The cat passed away over a decade ago after a long 26 years of life, and that's a long time for a cat. Just want to put that in there. Years before that, we unfortunately had to rehome him because of my allergies that began. And hopefully y'all don't hear that airplane, but if you do, sorry. But anyway, my dad found the cat as an abandoned kitten long before I was born, and it was my parents' first pet together as a couple. We got to visit him in his new home shortly before he passed. This is the only visitation dream I have ever had, and it has left me speechless." So that's really interesting. That's one of those rare or more unusual subgroups of dream experiences where pets come back to visit. It's not super rare, but yeah, it's very. I thought that was a really neat story. So, and yeah, hello, Derek. Nice soccer. He says, "I wish stories would always give surroundings so we knew if it's near a river or something." Watching hour. Yeah, the 3 o'clock thing was interesting because at first your reaction to that, because so many other stories is, oh, well, that must be evil. But then you look back at the story, there's nothing really evil about it. So I thought that was a really interesting story, and the way the cat looked, the face of the cat looked different to the writer. Basically, the way it did when the writer was a kid, is really interesting too. But if you think about it, I mean, cats and lions, they're both feline. So, yeah, very interesting story there. And I had found that, and I had to share it. Derek says, "Makes me wonder if there's a type of entity out there that tries to pose as pets, takes an image from their mind. Could explain why it's the childhood memory." Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's always possible. Hopefully that's not though. Hopefully it's just the spirit of the cat somehow. Because as I've said before in multiple shows, I know I have a ghost cat here once in a while. So, but yeah, it's hard to say. At least if it was something else, at least it didn't do anything bad. Other than maybe posing as someone else's pet. But yeah. That was I kind of like that one, because I like to think that was exactly what the writer thought it was, hopefully. But yeah, let's see here. But yeah, definitely I do agree, Derek. There can be some cases where it's not always what you think it is, but yeah, that did seem like a nice story there. So, let's see here. Let me see how long the next couple of stories are here. And, okay. Well, the next one is long. So I think I'm going to have to end it there today. Sorry for anyone that just got here, but the good thing is you can always go back and listen to the podcast recording after, and and then of course there will be more tomorrow. More true ghost stories from the web. So thank you all for being here, and look forward to talking to you all tomorrow night again on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal.